Hello, hi guys, welcome to the Infinity's Basic Walkthrough webinar. I would just like to check before we get started if you can hear me. Just type in the chat section, that would be great, okay? And then we can get started. All right. Excellent. Okay. Just so you know, there is a slight delay, a few seconds of delay. So if you notice like me being quiet for a few seconds, that's because I'm waiting for your replies. Don't worry, I'm still here. So thank you guys for confirming that you can hear me. I guess we can get started then. So thank you for being here today. This is going to be our second Infinity's Basic Walkthrough webinar. I'm going to try to explain how Infinity works and basically explain the basics. And then at the end, we can also go through some of your questions. So you can see that Stefan Lazarevic is here. He is our CEO, and he will be helping me with some questions. So when it comes to questions, you can leave them in the chat, and Stefan will probably answer those questions. But you can also leave them in the Q&A if you want me to cover that at the end, because if you leave it in the chat, it might get mixed up with the rest of the messages. Okay, so let me just introduce myself. My name is Jovan. I am the head of customer success here at Infinity, and you may know me. I'm the one sending you all those emails, welcome emails when you signed up. Also, if you are a part of our community on Facebook, then you also know me from there. So let's begin with me asking you one question. So can you let me know quickly in like three or four words, what are you organizing with Infinity? So whether you are, already started organizing something, or if you haven't, so what is your company all about? Or if you're organizing your work or you're organizing your personal life, please let me know in the chat section, and then I would like to see the backgrounds, and then we can get started right after that. While I'm waiting for your replies, they're coming in. Thank you so much. Sales, nonprofit, awesome. HR tasks, freelance projects, awesome. Sales pipeline, excellent. Work projects, great. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for your replies. E-commerce, all sorts of things here. I'm happy to see that. Because that's exactly the point of Infinity. You can organize pretty much anything. So I'm really happy to see that there's so many different people here, so many different backgrounds, businesses, and so on. Excellent. So just one last note before we get started is that this webinar is being recorded. So basically after a few hours after the webinar, you will be receiving the recording. So if you want to go over something once more at your own pace, you can do it after the webinar. Okay, I think we can get started. So the agenda for today is this. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to talk about Infinity. What is Infinity? What is its flexibility? So what does that mean when we say that it's fully flexible? Then we're going to go through basic concepts of Infinity structure. So workspace, boards, folders, and so on. Then we're going to explain items and attributes. And then we're going to create a new folder and a few new items, just so we can go through that flow as well. After that, we will go through some tabs, views, and customization options. And later, we will go through the board overview, which will help you see the big picture. So see all of your data inside one board. And lastly, we're going to go over some collaboration options that you can try in Infinity if you're working in a team. And of course, in the end, we're going to go through some of your questions as well. All right. So let's start with the first topic. So what is Infinity? So Infinity is a fully customizable work management platform that allows you to organize anything, just like I said a few moments ago. And we always like to say that Infinity is fully flexible. But what does that actually mean? So basically, there are like three problems that we tried to solve with Infinity when we were, setting out to build this tool. So the first one is that most other tools on the market are limited to tasks. So, if you're going to organize tasks, that's great, but Infinity lets you organize more than that. So you can, if you're organizing your business, you need more than tasks. You need your sales process, maybe HR, maybe you need, I don't know, if you are hiring new people, you can do it through Infinity and so on. So I'm going to explain that in more detail and examples later. But basically, that's the main idea. Then the second problem is that most tools have a rigid structure that you need to kind of adapt to. And Infinity structure is, we like to say it's like a never-ending growing tree. And I'm going to explain that on examples as well. But basically, it lets you scale, it lets you grow however you want. Lastly, the third problem is that most tools have a preset process. So they're kind of focused on one thing. Let's say maybe like Jira, if we're going to take that example, it's very good for organizing like software development. Asana, very good for tasks, and so on. And Infinity helps you create your own custom workflow, so you don't have to kind of adjust to just one set process. You can create many different processes if you want for many different things that you are organizing. Okay, so the second part obviously is going to be the walkthrough. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to share my screen, and then we can get started with the actual walkthrough. Okay, just give me a second. Okay, so I believe that you should be able, okay. Let me just see what's happening. Okay, here we go. I believe you should start seeing my screen now. Sorry for a small delay. Okay, so I think that you can see my screen. So you can let me know if there's some technical difficulties. I'm going to try to also keep track of that on another screen. Okay, so this is the dashboard of Infinity. Basically, you're all familiar with this, I believe. And this is like where you land when you sign up, when you log in. This is where you will end up. So this is the dashboard, and in the dashboard you will see your workspaces. So Blue Sky Company here for me is a workspace. And usually, typically, a workspace is used for one company or one brand. If you have a small to medium-sized business, one workspace can be quite enough for one. One workspace can be enough for one brand. And then, of course, you can use more workspaces. Like I, for example, created an example here that says, one workspace is for my company, and then one workspace would be for my personal stuff, like goal planning, renovation projects, and so on. But let's focus on this one right here. So in this example, I'm going to pretend that I own a marketing agency. So in this workspace, I have my marketing agency projects and everything else. So inside a workspace, obviously, you have boards. So these colorful things here are boards, and you can use them for different purposes, like different projects, different departments, different clients. So in my example, I have like HR, I have business development, I have marketing, sales, but then I also have a few boards for my clients, for the projects that I'm organizing for my clients. Okay, I can see somebody wrote, there is no sound. Okay, I can see Stefan replied to that. I believe the rest of you can hear me. Okay, so where was I? So basically, yes, the boards can be used for many different purposes, and I try to illustrate this with a few examples of my own. So when you are creating a new board, you will be clicking this button right here, and the three options that you will get is start from scratch, load a template, or import from Trello. So starting from scratch is basically starting from zero. If you are familiar with Infinity, if you know the basic features and everything, you should be fine starting from scratch. But I usually suggest, and we usually suggest, loading a few templates first, because it's much easier as you're starting out. You may even find some templates very useful as a foundation for your own organization. But you can also try a few templates just to play around and see how it works. Obviously, the third option is import from Trello. If you are coming from Trello, you can import it in just a few seconds. So if you choose load a template, you'll be taken to this page over here. So this is our templates page. And here you will be able to choose any of the categories over here. So like freelance, HR, marketing, product development, project management, and so on. Once you choose one, let's say marketing, and go choose client sales process, on the right side here, you will see this template. And you can preview it if you want to check it out just to see if it's going to work for you. And if it will, then you can just load this template. I'm not going to do that right now because I have a few templates over here. But I'm going to create a board just so we can go through that flow together. So I'm going to start from scratch. And the next part is basically customizing this board's name. So I give it a simple name. You can add a description. You can change the color, for example, orange. And this list over here, it's going to give you the list of all the people in this workspace. And then you can choose who you want to join you on this board. So here I have a lot of people in my workspace, but here maybe I just want to invite Jenny and Yana and Milica, for example. And then I will click continue. Okay. So now the board is being created, and the next screen is obviously my empty board. So this is why I said that starting from scratch can be a little bit overwhelming in the beginning, because it's going to give you like an empty slate. So you can start from zero, you can create your own folders and items and so on. So obviously after this webinar, I'm hoping that you will be able to do this. But before that, I will go back to one of my boards that I have already created. But don't worry, we are going to go through the flow of creating folders and items as well. Okay, so I'm going to go into my client A projects. Okay, so this is one of our templates actually, and it can be a little bit overwhelming, a little bit too complex when you're looking at it. But I chose this template because it's actually a very good example of how you can use folders in many different ways. So if you're like, well, what is this? Don't worry, I'm going to explain how folders work, how items work, how everything else works. And this template is going to help me. So basically the next part of our structure is the folders. So the folders are going to help you classify your work in one board, in many different boxes, let's say, many different places. So you can keep it neat, you can keep it organized, and most importantly, you can keep a lot of related data inside one board. So let's say I'm organizing my marketing agency and I want everything that I do for one client to be inside one board. I can do that. I can achieve that by using folders. So let's say one of my folders can be for tasks. I have current tasks, I have my archive, then one is for metrics. Let's see what we have here. So for example, one folder for KPIs, then for example, one where we are organizing our meetings with this client, one where, for example, I have my social media materials. You can even see the attachments and everything. You can organize your whole social media strategy over here. Let's say we have accounts in one folder, so we have everything, all the passwords or all the account data that we need for the services that we're using with this particular client. Okay, so does that make sense? You can always let me know in the chat section if something doesn't make sense, or if it does, of course, I'm hoping. So this is how the folders are going to help you. Also, you may see that there is like a substructure here. So we have subfolders as well. So let's go back to our tasks. So we have tasks, and then we have like current tasks and our archive. And then in the archive, we can have different weeks for different tasks that we have completed over the weeks in a year. So this is actually how we use it a lot in our team. So we always have, let's say, an archive. We organize it by weeks, and then we drag and drop our items into the archive. So I'm gonna show you that in just a bit. Don't worry. But that's basically how folders work. Okay. So this is like those basic concept of the structure. So does that make sense? Is it like a bit clearer than it was before this? I'd like to know, so you can let me know. And I will, of course, go over to our next section, which is items. Okay, so the item obviously is the basic unit of Infinity. Okay, so it's the basic building block of Infinity, and it can be anything. We always say it can be anything, and you will build your item using attributes. So let me open. This is one item that I just opened. I expanded it, and when you expand an item, you can see that we have attributes over here on the left side, and by adding different attributes, you will be building different types of data. So obviously in a task, since this is a like current tasks folder, we have a name, we have an assignee, task status, description, some dates over here, and so on. But obviously in some other folder, our item will look quite differently. So I'm going to show you just a quick example. In a KPI folder, this is how an item looks. So this is just the numbers that we need to track our KPIs for each week. Okay, so I'm going to go back to a bit more colorful, let's say, item in our current tasks folder. So here, as I said, we have some attributes, and you can always add more data, more attributes if you click this button over here. Okay, so I'm going to talk about this list in just a moment, so don't worry about this list for now. But if we want to create a completely new attribute, we will click here, create new attribute. Once we do that, you will open the list of our attributes. So we have over 15 customizable attributes, which means that you can add any number of them, you can rename them, you can edit them, you can add several attributes of the same type. For example, here you have date, but you see that we added a start date and we added a due date because we need both of those in this folder. Then we have labels, which I really recommend using. I'm going to show you in just a second how you can create those. We have a checkbox. Of course, you can use it for like completed or something like that. Long text for instructions, descriptions, and so on. So I'm not going to go through the whole list. Obviously, it's going to take a lot of time, but I do suggest checking this out if you haven't already, and kind of exploring this, experimenting a bit, and seeing what you can use these attributes for. Attachments, obviously, for certain files. Numbers can be very, versatile. You can use them for price, for a KPI. So depends on what you're organizing, but you can use them for different purposes. Okay. So let me create now a label. As I said, I would like to show you how to do that. So I'm going to create a new attribute. And in this particular folder, we don't have priority. We have task status, but we don't have priority. I'm going to create that. You can rename these. You can, of course, create completely new. I'm going to just rename them into high, medium, and low. Okay, let me change. Of course, you can change the colors as well, so it makes more sense. And once you are happy with this setup, you can click Save. Okay, so right now, my priority should be at the bottom. Here it is. And I can, of course, move it. I can move it here, for example, if it makes more sense to me to be a bit towards the top. And I can say, okay, this task is high priority. Okay, so now we can go through all of our tasks and assign priority to them. And obviously, you can do that. You can do that in this folder and in any other folder, as I will show you. So I do suggest using labels because they can be very useful later when you want to display your data in different ways, when you want to use different views. I'm going to show you that later. As you can see in columns, we have grouped our data by labels, which is immediately giving us a more visual, more attractive, appealing way of seeing and managing our data. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Now we're going to go and create one folder on our own. Okay, so let's create a new folder. In this, if you click this button over here, you will create a new folder, the bottom here. So let me see, I need more, maybe a content strategy for our client A. So when you create a new folder, the first thing you will need to do is choose a view if you're starting from scratch, or you can load a template again into this folder, or you can import your data from Trello or from CSV. So right now I'm going to start from scratch. I'm going to choose a table, and when you are creating tasks or anything else that needs to be created quickly, I do suggest using the table because it can help you do it quickly. So let me see, for example, we need a few blog posts for this client. So let's say blog 1, click enter, blog 2, enter, blog 3, enter, and that's pretty much how you do it. And you can quickly create these tasks or content pieces in my case, and then you can decide what you need to add next. So when you are in a table, add column is pretty much the same thing as add an attribute, right? So I told you that I'm going to explain this big list over here. So when you are in a template, you may notice that you have this list of some attributes that you maybe don't know where they come from. So these attributes are actually already in this board. So this list will give you all the attributes that you already have created or that have been created in the template. And then you can easily reuse them, use them again, and you don't have to start from scratch and create the attributes from scratch. So let's say maybe what we need here, maybe we need, I don't know, let's say done. Okay, so we can check off our tasks when they are done. Maybe we can use assignee so we know who is working on these blogs. And maybe let's add a description. Okay, so here we have our tasks or our blog posts that we have set up in pretty much a few seconds because we have reused the attributes that we have. Of course, when you are creating a new folder and you want completely new data, completely new attributes in here, of course you can do it. So all you need to do is click add column and then create new attribute and then choose what you need to add. Okay, but we have already talked about that in the previous folder, so I'm not going to repeat that now. So this is how you will create your own folder and your own items. Okay, so let me catch my breath and ask you, have you, like, I know there are people who maybe started a few weeks ago and some people that maybe started just a few days ago. So have you had a chance to create your own folders? Have you had a chance to create your own items? How did it go? Did you use a template? So you can just in a few words tell me your experience with Infinity so far when it comes to creating this data. Did you find it easy? Did you find it difficult? I would like to see that in the chat section. Okay, so I'm going to give you a few seconds to just write your answers. And then we can go to our next section. Okay, awesome. I can see some answers over here. All right, excellent. Learned something new today. Okay, great. All right, awesome. Okay, yes, I can see they're pretty different experiences over here, but I'm hoping that after this, you guys are saying it looks easy, so I'm happy that I could help with that. Okay, so let's go back. I actually went back to our current folder, current tasks folder, and here we will go to our next topic, which is basically customization. So the first thing that we need to cover are tabs. So actually, just wanted to mention one more thing while we are on the last topic of creating folders. So I just wanted to give you just one quick basically explanation, description, what you can do with the folder. So if you click here, these 3 dots on each folder, you will see some options. These are pretty straightforward. You can duplicate the folder, which is cool if you want to use your folder as, like, let's say, a template. So you can duplicate it whenever you need to use it again. You can also duplicate it without items. You can move this folder to a different board. And of course, you can export it to a CSV if you want to keep your backup, if you want to send it to somebody, and so on. And of course, you can delete it. Okay, so let's go back to what I wanted to talk to you about. So the tabs. So the tabs are probably one of my favorite features in Infinity, because they will allow you to see your data in many different ways and manage your data very easily. And you can basically see your data from one folder in different ways, in different views, with different customization options. And I'm going to explain that in just a bit. So the first tab here we have is grouped by task status. So we have column view, and we have grouped our data by task status. So this is very good if you want to keep track of the process. So this is like a process where we need to keep track of our tasks, and we can move things around. We can drag and drop, for example, from doing to review, or from review to done. So drag and drop works pretty cool here. One other cool thing is that you can, of course, move, let's say, completed tasks to the archive. So you can move items from one folder to another. So let's say this is done. I want to move it to the archive, and I will move it just by drag and drop, like so. When I do that, I will get this option to move or move and merge. So move, if you want to just keep the attributes from the archive folder, so from the destination folder in my case, I will click move. So let me give you an example. So if my tasks have a name, status, and a checkbox, and in my archive, I only have a name, and I only want to have a name, I will just click move, and that would be it. But if I want to move the whole task with all of the data, so with my checkbox, with my name, with my status, I would click move and merge, and I will get those attributes transferred to my week 50 or to my destination folder. So I'm going to click move and merge. Okay, so you can basically do that very easily, just move things around as you need. Okay, so the next tab that we have here is a to-do list. So this one is like pretty simple, straightforward. If you have tasks or some ideas or something that needs to be in a very simple, clear, straightforward view, you can use a list like we have here. Then you can, of course, customize your list. So, for example, let's say I want to maybe hide something because I don't want to see the priority here. I will just toggle this off, use customize, toggle this off, and I don't see the priority anymore. Or I can just do that with any other data. So let's say checkbox, okay, I can't see the checkbox anymore. So the customize will help you if you want to like hide something, maybe make your view a little bit simpler, clearer, and only with the information that you need to see. But you didn't actually delete anything. If you use the customize, you can just bring it back very easily. Okay. The next tab that we have here is also columns, but this time grouped by team members or by assignees in my case. And this is very useful if you have a small or medium-sized team. You can use this approach. So basically, each person will have their own column. So for example, Jenny can just focus on her column, and let's say I'm the manager, and I can focus on what each of my employees are doing, and I can maybe even move things around. I can say, this, I have too many tasks, I have 11, so I will send one over to Milica, just drag and drop, and this is now Milica's task. So this is good for collaboration as well. Okay, and of course you can create many more tabs, as many as you need. So let me show you how that works. So when you create a new tab, the first thing you will need to choose is the view. So let's choose a table view. So when you choose a view, when you create a tab, you will get all of the data from the current task. So from this folder in one view, in one table in my case. And then I can decide what I want to do next, okay? So for example, I can sort my data, or I can group my data further. So let's say I want to group my data by maybe by task status. Okay. And I also want to filter my data by assignee. Let's say where assignee is myself. Okay. And I can rename this tab so I can know that this is actually my tab. This is actually my tasks. So I don't need to go around looking for my tasks throughout this board. I can just go to this tab and just focus on what I need to do. And this is also very smart if you want to collaborate with your team in this way. Our development team actually uses this strategy a lot. So basically, our development team has their tasks into tabs. So let's say we have Jovana, we have John, Peter, and so on. So each person, each developer has their own tab, so they don't have to look through other tabs, other folders, and they can just focus on what they need to do. Okay, so that's one example of how you can use your tabs. Okay, so this is the combination of tabs and customization options is actually the most powerful. So create a tab, choose a view, and then choose what you want to do next. So whether you want to filter something out, group it, sort it, customize it, and so on. Of course, you can also drag and drop things. You can move things around. You can say, this is like, I want to shrink this a little bit, or maybe I want assignee to be the first column over here, or something like that. So you can basically drag and drop everything as you need it to be in your table. Okay, so let's move over to a few more views that we have. So now we explained the columns, we have explained the list and the table, but we have, as you might have noticed already, we have a few more views over here. So right now, I want to tell you about the calendar. So when I choose the calendar here, you will see we have my data, or my tasks in this case, in a monthly view. So this is good if you want to like keep track of deadlines or any other time-sensitive data. For example, if you want to organize your meetings or something like that, you can do it in a calendar, of course. So you can, let's say deadlines. This tab is reserved for deadlines. And here you can see my tasks, and it's pretty interactive as well, just like any other tab, any other view. So you can move things around. You can see maybe I'm not going to be able to do this on the 9th, so I'm going to move it to Thursday, and so on. Also, you can create an item directly inside the calendar. So if you see this little plus sign, you can create your new task here. So write a blog, for example, and then when you click to open it, you can fill out the rest of the data. I'm not going to do that now, but basically you can add an assignee, you can add dates, and so on. Okay. Another cool thing that I just wanted to mention here is when you are in your calendar, you can make things a little bit more interesting or visual. So if I click here and choose, actually this is like also important, which I forgot to mention. So when you are in your calendar, if you have several types of dates, like I do, I have a start date and I have a due date. But here I wrote deadlines and I'm actually looking at the start date. So I need to change this. I need to say I want due date, actually. Okay. So here you can see that the items moved because now I'm looking at my deadlines, and I can also color code my calendar. So if I click here, I can choose, let's say, task status, and you can see that my items have switched to another color, which is basically the color of my task status labels that I have in another tab. You might have noticed the colors. So this is for those who are a bit more visual. You can keep track of the data easily. Maybe you know that this bright green is to do, so you know what still needs to get done, and so on. Okay, so the next view that I wanted to talk to you about is the Gantt chart or Gantt view. So I'm going to choose that one. So for the Gantt view, you need a start date and an end date. So this is actually going to show you tasks on a timeline, which is why you need to have some kind of a starting point and some kind of an ending point. So I'm going to choose, obviously, my start date and my due date. And once I do, my Gantt will open up like this. So I really suggest exploring customization, grouping, filtering in the Gantt chart as well, because this can look completely differently. So when I group it by, let's say, status, I will get a completely different view now. So I mean, it's the same view, it's still a Gantt chart, but I will get a much more visual, clear view of what needs to be done, where maybe my team is falling behind, who is doing what. This blue line over here is today, so you can kind of compare against that blue line against today, what's falling behind, and so on. The same as calendar, the same as everything else. You will be able to manipulate these items over here. So you can say, maybe let's push this task to a bit later in the month, or maybe we can say, we thought this is going to last a bit longer, but it didn't. So I'm just going to shrink it because we finished it earlier. Okay, so that's how it works. You can also drag and drop, move things around, and manipulate your data in different ways. I want to mention this as well. So now we are in a weekly view, but you can also move it to day, month, or year. So if I change it to month, for example, I will see my items in like a monthly January, February view. And if I change it to, let's say, year, I will get this view, which doesn't make much sense for tasks, but it will make a lot more sense for projects, for example, because if you have a project that goes on from January to April, you will be able to see that very nicely if you choose the yearly view. I'm going to go back to weekly view. Okay. So the last view, which is kind of a completely different feature, if you ask me, is a form view, which you may have noticed here being the last view over here. So the form view is very versatile, very useful, and we use it a lot. So you can use form to gather, collect data in many different ways. For example, you can create a contact form on your website. You can use it if you're hiring new people. You can create an application form, or if you want to collect, let's say, feedback from your clients, you can create a feedback form, and so on. So I'm going to, of course, show you how that works, but I'm going to do it in a new folder because I don't want to create any more tasks. I want to create my form. So I'm going to create, let's say, a contact form. Okay. Of course, I will need to choose the form first. But when you are creating a form, I suggest creating another tab immediately. And I will choose a table view. You can choose whichever you prefer, but I'm going to choose a table view. I'm going to show you why this is important, of course. So when you create the form, when you open this view, you will be able to kind of adjust pretty much everything regarding this form. So obviously we need a name for a contact form. You can add cover, you can add a logo. If you want your if you want your form to be a little bit more visual, I suggest adding these images here. So I'm going to actually add a cover in just a second. Okay, let me see what I have here. Okay, so, all right. Yeah, okay. So there is the Infinity logo image that we added. And when you are creating the questions for your form, you will be actually creating them through attributes. So let's say I have the name attribute, which is the primary, the default attribute. When you create any folder, you will get a name. And my first question will be, what's your name? Okay. Let's add a few more questions. So for example, maybe I can use an email. Okay, I'm going to create a new email attribute here. I'm going to call it email. The question would be like, what's your email? Okay, keeping it simple. And let's say, since this is a contact form, we can add one more question, which would be, okay, let's add a long text and call it question. Okay, so we want them to ask us a question. Okay, so what would you like to ask, for example? Okay, all right. So here we have our 3 questions. Our form is ready. Let's say we're not going to create any more questions. Of course, you can add some fields to be required, like let's say that our name is required. And when you are sharing the form, you will click this button over here and click enable sharing this form. So you can share the form in 2 ways. The first one is, of course, copy paste this link, send it to your client, send it to somebody, and they will click the link, open the form, and fill it out. But you can also fill out the form. You can also embed the form on your website, for example. And I'm going to show you an example of this in a few moments. But let's now choose the, let's say, simpler version, which I can show you very quickly. So I'm going to copy this link, and open it in another tab. Okay, so this is how, let's say, the person will see my form, and they will fill it out like this. So just they're gonna keep it simple over here, some dummy email, and the question is like, do you offer a discount? Okay, and I'm gonna submit my question. All right, let's go back. So the table is actually very good because you will see all the answers that are coming through your form directly in your other tab, which in my case was the table. So I chose it because it gives me a nice preview of all of my questions, right? So I can move this here. I can shrink this. And now I have this first response in my table. So whenever somebody fills out your form, you will get a nice table full of people or full of responses, or whatever you are collecting, whatever data you are collecting, you will basically be creating those answers right here. So that's pretty much how that works. I'm going to show you that in just a bit on a real example on our website, actually, but we're going to get to that in a second. So I can already see somebody mentioning they've not used the form before, but it looks super useful. So I actually wanted to ask you, so I can catch my breath a little bit, if you have used the form, because I know that whenever I tell somebody about the form, they usually are very even surprised that it exists and that it can be used in so many ways. So let me know, guys, in a chat section if you've used it, or if you haven't, if you are planning to after this explanation. Okay, and I'm gonna take a sip of my tea while you do that. Okay, and then we can, of course, move on to the next section. Okay. All right. So let's move to the next section, which is the board overview. So the board overview is actually this button over here. Maybe you've noticed it, maybe you haven't. It is a button, and you can click it and select all of the data inside this board. Okay. So actually, when you have, let's say, a lot of folders like I do over here, it can be very useful to see the big picture, to see all the data inside just inside one board, but inside just one view that you can later manipulate, customize, add several tabs, and so on. So as you can see, the folders are now a little bit grayed, and this means that all of my data is now inside this overview. So when you create your overview, or when you click this button, the first thing you will see is your data grouped by folders. So right now here we have a few folders, and this is the first view that I wanted to keep. But then the good thing is that you can add more tabs. So you can treat your overview just like you would use any other folder. So for example, you can create folders, you can create tabs like I did over here. So I actually created a tab which is focused on my tasks. So as you can see here, this lists all of my tasks, and I use the filter just like I showed you in the current folder. Assignee is me, and then I can see all of my tasks from this whole board in one place. Of course, I wanted to show you as well that you can use the calendar on the overview level. So if you have some time-sensitive data across several folders, you can use the overview calendar. And let's say we have one more tab, which I have grouped by checkbox. So I can see what is not done, what is done, and I can then focus on my tasks which are still not done. So this is how you would use the overview. It's pretty straightforward. It's a little bit, let's say, hidden. So maybe you haven't noticed that it exists, but I suggest that you should definitely take a look, definitely experiment a little bit with that. But the main point is that you can use it to manipulate your data on the board level the same way that you do with the folders. So create tabs, create customization options, use many different views, and so on. Okay, hope that makes sense. So right now, we are going to go through to our final point of the day, which is collaboration. So before we do that, can you guys let me know if you are working solo or if you're working in a team? So please let me know in the chat section. So of course, if you are working in a team, you can also let me know how big your team is. So whether it's a small team, a big team, so we can always appreciate to get more data about your guys' background. And okay, team, solo, team, a lot of teams, team of 5, multiple people, my whole team, solo for now, team of 2. Excellent. Okay, so I can see there are a lot of teams actually today, a few solo users as well. Excellent. Okay, thank you for your replies. Excellent. So this means that our collaboration features, which I'm about to show you, are going to come in handy. So let's go over to that. So I already showed you a few things, a few tricks, creating, for example, the tabs for one user, or grouping your tasks by members, and so on. But obviously, how you will assign tasks is the first, let's say, question. So when you open task, you may have noticed I have my assignee over here. So assignee is actually when you create a new attribute, this is the members attribute. Okay, so obviously you can use your members attributes again for different purposes, but I guess the primary purpose is for assigning tasks. So here I called it assignee. Of course, you can call it anything else. I call it assignee, and you can use it to assign one person. You can assign, let's say, 2 people or more people, which is very important. And then you can just uncheck it if you, let's say, don't want somebody to be on the task anymore. You can do it very easily. Okay, so that's the first point. And then obviously you can use grouping and filtering to kind of make the most of that attribute. So while we're at this topic, I also want to talk to you about these two things. So the first thing that we covered are attributes on an item, but there are two other parts of an item. So the first one, obviously, comments. I already have one comment over here. So the comments are going to be very useful if you want to, let's say, communicate with your team in the context of your tasks or items. And you can even tag people. So all you need to do is like tag, let's say, please let us know about this. Okay, so when I actually post this comment, Militza is going to receive a notification over here, and she can then reply to me and let us know what's happening with the monthly report. As she can also reply, and you'll get a timestamp on the comment. As you can see, the comments are also, you can edit them, you can add different formatting options, you can even add attachments, you can add a video, you can add emojis, and so on. Okay, so the third part over here is the activity log. And the activity log is going to let you kind of see what happened on this item. So you're going to be able to keep track of the history, let's say, of this item. You will see when it was created, when it was changed, and so on, which can come in handy if something maybe is changed and you're not really sure who changed it, what happened. Maybe somebody updated something and you want to see when it happened. Then you can go to the activity log and check that out. Okay. So those are the holy trinity of an item in Infinity. Okay, so that's pretty much it when it comes to the item. And the one of the last points that we're going to talk about is the board manager over here, which already has a few collaboration options, let's say. So the first one here, members. So this is, you may remember this from the beginning when I was creating a board. This actually gives you a list of all the people in the workspace, but there you can choose who will join you on this board. So right now, if you remember, we invited a few people and you can see the check boxes here. But if I want to invite somebody, or maybe if I want to remove somebody from this board, I can do it very easily. Okay, so let's say maybe I want to add Yana to this board. I will just check this checkbox and she will be a part of this board from now on. Okay. The next part here is permissions. So permissions, you can basically change them, adjust them however you want. There are 3 roles in Infinity: admin, full member, restricted member, and of course the owner. And you as the owner will be able to change the permissions. So these 3 are essentially the basic ones, but you can also adjust them however you need. You can also adjust individual permissions. And I will not go through all of these, obviously, but I do suggest that you check them out. Basically, what I can do is say maybe my admins can do everything, but maybe my restricted members are not able to delete boards. Or I can do that on an individual level. I can say maybe Jenny should not be able to update this board. So I will just check this, uncheck this, or check it if I need her to update this board. Okay. Finally, we have the share board option. So here you'll be able to share a board, make it public. For example, let's say share the contents of your board with a client and you don't want to invite them to join you as a team member, but you just want to show them this board. You can do it by making the board public. And you can even add password protection if you want to add another layer of security over here. When you share a board, you can add a few permissions to the guest users. So if you don't check anything over here, they will just be able to view the board. But obviously I can say, okay, I want my clients to be able to post comments and I want them to create their own items and edit those items. So now I gave them those permissions, and when I share this board, all the people who have the link will be able to do these things in my board. Okay. So if I want to share it, of course, just like the form, I can copy paste it, share it with somebody, or I can embed it onto a website. So I mentioned a few minutes ago that I wanted to show you an example of form, but I will also show you an example of a board that is shared. So this is our roadmap actually page on our website. I'm guessing that some of you have seen this. If not, I suggest definitely checking it out because it will help you see what we're working on, what we are planning, check our progress with certain features, because I can see that you are asking Stefan a lot of questions about some upcoming features. And I'm sure that you will find all those answers over here in our roadmap because we update it very regularly and you can see the progress over here. But my point here was, aside from showing you the roadmap, is this is actually an example of the public board. So this is an embedded public board, and this is how it looks. So I can change date over here if I have the right permissions and so on. Right below this is our request a feature form. So this is the form that you will see on our roadmap page, and this is the embedded form that you can use to suggest a new feature, maybe report a bug or something like that. So this is actually an example of that. Okay, let's go back, and that is pretty much it. Just one last thing is trash. It's not really collaboration, but it can be. If you delete something, or if somebody from your team deletes something, you can easily restore it from the trash. So if you click here, you will be able to restore that folder or delete it permanently. And you can also do that same thing for items and attributes. So this is a very useful option over here. Okay, so I believe that that's pretty much what I wanted to show you. I hope that was useful. Let me go back and stop screen sharing. Okay. So now, okay, let me see. Let's go back to the slides. All right, so I hope this made sense. I hope that this was helpful. I know that Stefan already answered a lot of your questions. So now let me see if there are some questions in the Q&A over here that I can answer. Okay, all right. So how does archiving work? How could we create an archive for items? Okay, so basically you can create an archive like I had in my board. You can create a new folder to serve as your archive, and then you can drag and drop. When you have completed something, you can drag and drop your items to the archive. But the second option is to basically delete to create a folder that would be an archive that you would delete and put it to trash. If you recall, we talked about the trash. And then this is actually how I use it. So you can just move it to the trash, and then if you need something maybe from the archive, you can easily restore it. Okay, let me see. Okay. Can information from one board be referenced in another board? Yes. Sorry, no, not yet. It can be referenced in one board, inside one board. It can be referenced, so you can link between different boards, different folders. But unfortunately, for now, it's not possible to reference or link between different boards. Okay. Can you duplicate boards easily? Okay, I mean, from one Infinity account to another. Okay, yeah, that is a good question. This is like, you can of course duplicate the board. If you need to duplicate a board, you will just be able to do it with the items or without the items. But if you need to transfer a board to another account, Cindy, you can let our chat support know about this, and we will help you do this manually, because this needs to be like moved to another account entirely. So we will need to help you out with that. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, this is a great question. Is there a faster way to give someone access to all boards? I want to show you this. Actually, I know that we only have 1 minute, but I just want to answer this question, and then we can wrap it up. Okay, let me see if you can hopefully see my screen. Okay, for some reason it's a little bit slow when I want to share my screen. Sorry about that. Okay, let me see. Sorry about that. So yes, this is a great question. So if you want to invite people to a few boards or to all of your boards, you can use our members button, let's say. Let's call it a button. And here you will see all of our team members, and then you can click here and invite these people to all of the boards. Let's say select all, and then this person is selected. It's in all of the boards. Okay, so this is a really quick way to do it. Okay, all right. Okay, I believe that we are running out of time. I'm so sorry if I haven't been able to answer all of your questions. There are really a lot of questions that came in. So I think we should wrap it up for today. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you have any more questions later, of course, you can write to us, write to our chat support. It's the little purple bubble, chat bubble, while you're in our tool or on our website. So you can write to our chat support. We have 24/7 chat support, so you can get those questions answered even there. And I just wanted to jump over to the last slide and just mention a few useful things. So you should definitely visit these links. So you will have these in the recording. The Help Center, of course, if you need anything, if you have any questions, if you need help with anything, we have a really detailed Help Center that you can check out. Our public roadmap, which I already told you about, and our templates, which I already showed you. So I suggest checking that out, definitely. And finally, if you want to join our Facebook community, I think we have over 1,400 people there already. So if you want to join our Facebook community, it's called Infinity Community. You can do that, and I really do encourage you to join us and join the discussion there. Okay, so thank you so much for joining. Thank you for being so active, for asking so many questions, for opening a discussion in the chat section with Stefan. And I really enjoyed showing you Infinity, and I'm hoping that it was helpful to you. So I guess that's it. And if you have any other questions, as I said, feel free to write to us anytime. Okay? All right. All right. Well, take care.